So I've recently been diving into the Snyderverse since the DCU's been rebooted recently, and I wanted to take a trip back to 2016 to see truthfully if the Batman vs Superman movie was terrible or great. I truly didn't know what to expect since on the internet everyone either says this movie is garbage or it's great, but with the recent Man of Steel controversy, I'm starting to realize that a lot of people don't really have good media literacy and most of their criticisms of Snyder movies are just flat out wrong. So when I see a lot of people or the majority of moviegoers say that a movie is trash, I don't automatically think that it's trash just because they said so, which is what a lot of chronically online moviegoers do nowadays, unfortunately. But regardless, the point I'm trying to make is I came into the movie with a critical thinking mindset to make my own opinion for my own self. After watching the movie, I can confidently say that this movie was excellent, like an 8 out of 10. Well, you're probably wondering why I gave it such a high score since it came out like 10 years ago almost, and most people didn't really like it. Well, in the video, I'm basically gonna go over all the pros of the movie from the story to the characters to the comic references, and I'll also go over some of the cons that was part of the movie that made it not as great as it could have been. The biggest strengths of the movie, in my opinion, were the fight scenes, the atmosphere, and the storytelling in general. And for the people that are wondering, how could the storytelling be a strength if it's not comic book accurate? I'll explain it later, trust me. But I think the movie really executes the atmosphere of a superhero world that's more realistic. And because of it, the events in the movie just feel more monumental and significant. Which brings me to my first point that the storytelling in this movie was absolutely excellent. You probably already know how the story starts. It's when Bruce Wayne sees Metropolis getting destroyed by Superman's battles, and he's basically super tight that Superman is indiscriminately destroying property that indirectly kills one of his close coworkers. And he tries to save civilians that are in the rubble of the destroyed buildings, but unfortunately they die right in front of him. And this event creates the animosity that is started between him and Superman. And it's also cool to see the events unfold from Superman's point of view because he basically gets tricked and framed for killing innocent civilians in Africa, which makes him question why he's really doing all these good things for humanity. So it's cool to see like the tension between Batman and Superman, because from Batman's perspective, Superman is just this powerful alien that doesn't care about humanity and could turn on it at any time. And from Superman's perspective, Batman is just a lawless vigilante that doesn't care about Gotham or its citizens. And the whole time, Lex Luthor is working behind the scenes to get rid of them both so he can be the sole decider of the fate of humanity. So he sets up Superman, and in this courtroom, basically there's a bomb that's lined with lead so Superman can't see it, and it explodes, killing and injuring a bunch of people in there, and Superman was not able to save all the people in the courtroom in time, so it makes Superman look extra bad, and it makes him look like a threat more than a hero. And I can't believe I have to explain this since I thought it was common sense, but a lot of people think that Superman was quote-unquote aura farming in this scene because he didn't save all the people in the courtroom, because people say that he has Flash-like speed and Flash-like reflexes, so he could have zoomed in and saved them all before the explosion fully happened. And on top of that, people use this scene as proof that Zack Snyder's Superman is not canon and it's not true to the comics at all, and this is nothing like how Superman would act in reality. So in any of the Zack Snyder movies up to this point, there is no indication that he has speed like the Flash. There's also no indication that he knows or that he's aware of his Flash-like speed. Some people also try to say that, oh, he should have known that there was a bomb from hearing the ticking of the bomb or something like that, or hearing the mechanics. And that's just self-explanatory why this is so wrong. And if you watch The Man of Steel, you know that Kryptonians have to focus on what they want to use their super hearing for, because if they don't, they're gonna get a sensory overload. So basically, Superman had no reason to activate his superhero because he had no reason to suspect there being a bomb in the courtroom. People also love to criticize the scene where Superman is just staring into space in slow motion while the explosion flames are engulfed around him. And people like to say that this is horror farming and he doesn't care about the citizens of America. This take is just extremely dumb if you even watch like 10 minutes after this scene, because he's shown helping people out of the explosion after the explosion happens, and he's carrying multiple injured people to ambulances and making sure everyone's okay after the fact. It's just that in the moment he was in shock because he didn't want this thing to happen again, since there was already an incident similar to this in Africa where he tried to save the mercenaries and the civilians being held hostage, but he couldn't, and that traumatized him, which is why he was in shock in that moment. So that was a quick debunking of the quote-unquote horror farming scene. But back to why the storytelling was so great. The animosity between Batman and Superman continues to grow until it culminates when they finally decide to fight each other to the death. And people love to clown on this fight for being super unrealistic because Batman is able to defeat a superpowered alien human being in a fight. But I think they're just being party poopers, because if you actually watch the fight, it's like more of a unlikely scenario where Superman is holding back and Batman's going all out and just some events go in his favor. And I think the scene where Batman realizes that his mom and Superman's mom have the same name is really cool, and they decide to make up and target Lex after that because they can both connect with trying to protect their parents. Batman orchestrates a plan to save Superman's mom from Lex Luthor's goons, and once he does save her, everything seems happily ever after. And one of my favorite parts of the movie is the total curveball that they throw at the end of the movie. So Superman finds Lex and finds out that he's on his Krypton ship messing with General Zod's body, and Lex, out of desperation, unleashes this giant monster that evolved from the body, which actually turns out to be Doomsday. I don't know how this happened exactly, but the fact that this is a real plot point in the movie is genuinely hilarious. So Batman and Superman are trying as hard as they can to take down Doomsday, but they're not making any progress at all. And that's when Wonder Woman decides to randomly join, and it just seems so out of place. I honestly think Wonder Woman is not a very interesting character, but that's for a different video. So Wonder Woman is there with Superman and Batman helping fight off Doomsday, and they come up with the idea to kill Doomsday with the kryptonite dagger that was supposed to be for Superman, and by using all of their might and all of their strength, they barely managed to kill Doomsday, but it's at a terrible cost. Superman ends up getting killed by Doomsday in the process, and yeah, I was totally not expecting this. This was the most insane plot twist of the movie, and it just caught me off guard because you expect Superman to be invulnerable, but I guess in this universe he wasn't. So yeah, that about sums up the story of this movie, and yeah, it's not totally perfect. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but the one thing you can't say about it is that it wasn't entertaining. So the second thing that I think made this movie so good was the atmosphere. I know a lot of people don't like this for some reason, but the dark tones made it feel like every single moment of the movie was important and impactful, and you had to pay attention to each part because something important might happen. And just how the cities look when it's nighttime and they're doing gritty battles, it just looks so beautiful on the screen. And that also ties into my point that the fight scenes were also really good. They looked really good, and just the way that they happened, it was very interesting to see what the outcome would be. And now for the cons, I think one of the main cons was that they just did not care about the source material when it came to the characters. Everyone knows the main example of this, and that Batman kills thugs when he's trying to save Martha. But other than that, it's just the little things like Superman doubting, like having hope in humanity. I hate to say it, but that's not really what he would do normally. But it didn't really impact the movie that much anyway, so I didn't care about it too much. I think the real worst part of the movie was how they depicted Lex Luthor. He totally acted out of character in my opinion, and he was just so weird. He kind of acted like the Joker actually. He was acting extremely flamboyant and he easily got angered, and it was just a hard watch honestly. Every time he would talk, I would just cringe inside. Like, the animated shows do a so much better job of showing how Lex actually is. Like, he's a smart, stoic, and calculated businessman and philanthropist, quote unquote. I think it's kind of funny that Zack Snyder and James Gunn both couldn't make a good adaptation of Lex Luthor, but that's besides the point. I mean, that really sums up the movie, honestly. It was great storytelling, great atmosphere, great fight scenes, but some of that comic book accuracy was off, and of course, there was some mischaracterization with Lex Luthor being the main victim of that. But other than that, it was a great movie, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about it below in the comments. But yeah, that about sums it up. If you got any recommendations for what movie or TV show I should cover, you can put it in the comments. But yeah, I'm gonna see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.